Welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to That Is Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. My name is Kelly Morgan, and I am one of the co hosts of our debut podcast, That's Some Crazy Shit. My co host is James Baez. I have known James since kindergarten. We go way back. Say hey, James.
Hey,
We have been friends forever. I think I've known this man. He's like a brother from another mother. And in our long, very long friendship, we always seem to talk about crazy shit. So we thought we'd make a podcast. Tell him, James.
well, that about sums it up. Kelly is my sister from another mister. And I think because we have so much in common, we do tend to talk about some crazy shit. And what I like about when we discuss things is I think we're so open minded. We don't take anything as concrete, anything can happen. I think that's what generates it. And that's why we wanted to do the podcast. Our objective is to bring awareness to a variety of topics that interest us and hopefully interest you enough where if you don't believe what we're saying, then you do some research yourself and maybe get interested in doing this. So,
Or
Kelly,
maybe you'll even say, that's not true.
yeah, no
And
shit, that's
we'll
a
go look it
bullshit,
up.
James. Yeah,
Right? I
James,
mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of crazy shit out there. I will say, by no means, we are not experts. We don't claim to be. We're going to bring you some theory or some written information that we might have found about whatever topic we're talking about. And then, of course, our opinion. But we want to keep it open and just have a discussion as me and James do often. I will say that this is a no COVID zone. COVID could be classified as some crazy shit. However, we're not looking for like crazy real shit. We're like looking for crazy kind of maybe it is true or not true shit. COVID's true and there's a lot of info out there. You can get it anywhere. If you're looking for COVID here, we are not your soul tribe. So, with that being said, we thought we would go into a format of where James will talk about the crazy shit that he wants to talk about, and then I can talk about the crazy shit I want to talk about, and then we'll do like a bullshit session at the end. A bullshit session at the end. Say that 3 times real
Say
fast.
crazy bullshit session.
Crazy bullshit session. So James is going to kick it off, and his thing is about cryptid creatures, which I didn't even know what that was until he told me.
Well, you knew what they were. You just didn't know the term.
Well,
Uh,
true, true.
cryptid actually comes from the word cryptic, which is very fitting because that means mysterious and meaning, kind of ambiguous. And so cryptids are animals that may or may not exist. It's kind of ambiguous. So, and that covers such a great big field. Anything from Bigfoot to Loch Ness Monster, ghosts, dog men, the
The
grass
chupacabra,
man,
waka waka, the chupacabra,
chupacabra fits in there. That
chupacabra.
that started like in Puerto Rico, but somehow it's manifested into Texas. It went from some kind of uh, lizard monkey hybrid to some kind of dog hybrid. So that's how cryptids can change. I
Reptilians
want,
fall into that category as
yeah,
well.
all that. It's all. That's the thing. It's so ambiguous. They all fall under the cryptid character, and then it's just like an umbrella term. And then you go to the specific ones, the hairy men. Like I said, Bigfoot, Yeti, all those type of things. And then they have things that people don't hear too much about. Giant birds. The Indians talk about thunderbirds and things like that. So the cryptids is a great big field, and we're just going to kind of hit it wherever we can. And I just wanted to hit on the Bigfoot. We'll just go with Bigfoot right now. That's the more known name, I guess. So, do you have an opinion on this, Kelly? From what you know?
I don't, I only know about Bigfoot and Sasquatch from what you tell me, right? I don't really it's just one of those things that I've seen like the video, like the famous footage, what's it called?
The Patterson Gimlin film.
Right, where Bigfoot is walking. I think everybody's seen that footage from like maybe the 70s,
I
right?
believe it was 66 it was shot, but I don't remember.
Right. So it's, I think everybody's seen that footage. I know that I've seen there's a lot I know there's a couple of reality shows
Right.
on TV regarding Bigfoot, but I don't know much about it. I know there's even a couple of movies, and the thing that makes me kind of chuckle about the movies is that when people do find Bigfoot, he's never nice, right? They never come back.
Hey, Harry and the Hendersons.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one.
But the one I
Yeah.
saw was done by Bobcat.
Oh,
Uh,
and that's interesting. Bobcat, he went from kind of a skeptic to a believer.
yeah, his that was his movie that I saw, and when they got lost in the woods, and when they found Bigfoot, it was not good, right? So I'm looking for you to tell me about these cryptid creatures, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and also what's the difference between Bigfoot and Sasquatch?
All right. Well, Bigfoot and Sasquatch, it's just more terminology. Sasquatch tends to be one of the Native American names. Bigfoot is kind of, the Anglo name they give him. There are several. Now, this is where I don't quite know enough about it to comment, but I don't know if they're different species or if they're mutated species, but there's the grass man down in Ohio who tends to be not as big as Bigfoot, but he tends to be a little more violent, territorial. Then there's the skunk ape down in Louisiana, Florida. He tends to be more ape like, uh, really a pungent smell, and reports of him having three toes. So I'm not sure how they all fit in with one another. So that's something that our listeners can look into if they want to. Um, when I'm Now, this is I have to ask you a question, Kelly. What would you consider proof? If you wanted proof of a crime, a robbery, what would you need to prove that to you?
I need DNA. I need some DNA to prove that so and so DNA and some prints, video these days. Video, all you need these days is video, right? But if I was trying to prove a crime, video's helpful. DNA's great. I need cell phone records.
Yeah, well, that's cool, and that's funny because I asked that. People always say there's no proof that these things exist, but there really is. If you do a little research, you can find that proof, and you can find uh, where you talked about fingerprints. Dr. Meldrum, Dr. Jeff Meldrum up in Idaho State, he's a PhD, and his field is anatomy and anthropology. He got interested in the Bigfoot phenomenon in 1996 when he came across some 15-inch prints. And since that time, he's devoted his efforts towards proving the existence of these creatures. He has over 300 casts, and these casts are so detailed where they show prints and dermal ridges, and they show scars, and that's pretty hard to fake with a fake wooden foot. That's just not something and I don't know. How would you fake dermal ridges? I mean, at some point you're like, that's a little bit extreme.
Well,
You
and
know,
then I guess my question would be, why would you fake dermal ridges, right? I mean,
exactly. At what point? So um, another person who looked into this, Jim Chilcutt, he's an expert in fingerprints, and he's highly regarded, and he works with the FBI. He heard Dr. Meldrum talking about these dermal ridges and these prints, and since that's his field, it intrigued him enough. He set out to disprove it. They were a hoax. There's no way these things exist. So after he's heard Dr. Meldrum, he went up to Pocatello, Idaho State, and he studied the prints from Dr. Meldrum. And he came to the conclusion that these were prints, not fakes, from an unknown primate. So what does that tell you?
And didn't you say too that there was DNA evidence as well of like an unknown whatever they had DNA?
They do, and I heard of several cases of this where they've gotten DNA samples, different from different sources. Maybe hair, or they may have thought it was saliva. They've tested them, and they've come back as unknown primate. Okay, and they usually have a DNA that's common with the primate and human. So it's an unknown. I don't know what you call it, a hybrid. But because it's unknown, they take that to mean it doesn't exist, and they dismiss that as proof. Well, just because we don't know what it is, maybe it's just not cataloged yet. We don't
Maybe.
have a we don't know what it is because we haven't cataloged it. But that doesn't mean that proof doesn't exist. You could say that proof exists of an unknown primate living in the forests of North America, and you would have proof of that, in my opinion.
Now, do they have proof of Bigfoot in any other countries besides the United States and maybe Canada?
Oh yeah, there's proof all over the world, of things like this. Dr. Meldrum, in fact, he's traveled all over the world collecting prints. And that's just one person. I keep going back to him because he's a PhD. He's just not a quote unquote Bigfoot researcher. He's not a cryptozoologist. I mean, this man has a doctorate in anatomy. He's going to be able to tell if these are fakes or not. And he's going
Right.
all over. He's going all over the world finding these. So, and I'm sure that there's probably dozens of. I don't want to say credible because they're all credible, but they call them mainstream scientists. Like Dr. Meldrum. These men don't want to just come out and say, "Yeah, I believe in it," because they're putting their reputation at risk in any field, any paranormal field, because it's just not the norm. That doesn't exist. How can you study something that doesn't exist? Therefore, you're not legit. And so I have to give a shout out to these scientists and doctors and researchers who want to step out of that, and say, hey, man, this is something we need to study because we don't know if it exists.
And so I've never seen the reality show. I think it was called Finding Bigfoot or
Yeah,
Searching
finding
for
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But were these scientists or who were these guys? Do you know? Did you ever watch it?
Yeah, well, I watch all that stuff. I'm so interested in. I'll watch anything about it just to see what's on it. And um, I would say three were more Bigfoot, enthusiasts. One was a teacher; he was a music teacher. Uh, One was the organizer of a Bigfoot research group, and then they had the quote unquote skeptic who was the scientist. And I was excited about it because it got people excited about Bigfoot again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I watched it, and some of the things that go on, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then there were a couple things I'm like, wow, wow, made me think, hey, that's some crazy shit right there.
Well, the whole Bigfoot thing is some crazy shit, as is like the Yeti, but the Yeti is only like in the Himalayan mountains or something like that. I just remember the Yeti being like the snow, the one that's in the snow, right?
Right.
Is that true?
Well, they all inhabit, regions where there's going to be a lot of snow, but typically the Yeti is at such a high altitude, there's always snow. And it's just like I said, it's a regional name. You could, Yeti is like you said in the Himalayas, Sasquatch in the Northwest. It's just regional names really, but they're all very similar.
Interesting. So this is the question that I always have when we talk about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And I'm pretty sure somebody else has the same question. So I'm just going to throw it out there, James. Because of today's world and all the technology that we have, don't you think if Bigfoot existed, we would have found Bigfoot by now with drones and science and satellites and all the stuff we can do? And you don't think we would have found him by now?
Well, I think we've found proof. I don't think we want to acknowledge it. But a lot of that technology stuff costs money. You know, there was and I apologize, I didn't look this up, but there was a project where people wanted to do a drone with sensors on it, and this program was going to be $1 million program. Now I'm not sure what the where it's at this time, but that's a lot of money. And even trail cams run maybe $300 for a quality trail cam. So if you're going to be putting up 10 trail cams, that's $3,000.
It's true.
And it's a lot of money. And people want to say, well, you don't need money to go out in the woods. Maybe not, but you do need the time.
Well, you need the resources, right?
Exactly. You got to have the money to give you the time, and then the resources so that you can spend a time in the woods. Where you're going to be out there for, I would say, several weeks. I have a hard time with finding Bigfoot because it's like, okay, they went out. Hey, yeah, this area has trees. It looks squatchy. We're going to come back tonight. We came back tonight. We didn't see anything, but they're here. We're out. 24 hours isn't nothing.
Well, it's a television show,
Well,
James.
exactly. And so that's
You
my
know,
thing.
and the real search for Bigfoot probably isn't that exciting, right? Because it happens over, like as you said, over there's a lot of waiting, I would imagine, involved. And they can't do that on a reality show. People are going to lose interest real quick. So, but
But there is a gentleman out there, and he's controversial. His name's Todd Standing, and he'll go out and he'll spend weeks out there by himself, and he's had some pictures. And I'm one of those people. It's like I look at some and I'm like, wow, that looks real. And then you look at others and you're like, well, that's not so real. But then he has video, and you're like, wow, that's real. So there's people out there who go out there and they spend a lot of time out there. And
so if people wanted to learn more about Bigfoot, let's say now you've intrigued me, I want to learn more. Obviously I can do a Google search, but as somebody who has read a lot, where would you recommend that I start?
I would start with anything Dr. Meldrum has been involved in, any books, any lectures, any videos. I had the pleasure of hearing him speak, and the things he's speaking about, it's like it erased any doubt in my mind that these creatures don't exist. I mean, they exist. And so anything that has to do with Dr. Meldrum, I would look up. There's so many things on YouTube now. I would generally stay away from YouTube. I mean, you can, but I would look to books. There's lots of books on Bigfoot, and look to the older stuff.
Gotcha.
Uh, so, and then you can go from there. I watch a lot of YouTube now, but I think because I've been doing it so long, or I've been interested in so long, I kind of can tell the difference, if that makes sense, of
Yeah.
what's legit and not. And so, but if you're just starting, kind of be careful what you're watching, because there are some good fakes out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Well, that is our cryptid creature. I'm sure there will be others. I can't wait for you to talk about like reptilians, and then we can talk about my reptilian story. Not that I've ever seen a reptilian, but I've read about it. I've gone down the rabbit hole on YouTube with the reptile people, so I can't wait until we talk about those.
Right on.
Cool. So, we are a brand new podcast and we are fortunate enough to have sponsors. And because we're new, we thought that we would sponsor businesses that are new as well, startups, because it can be hard to get started. So, I want to say that our first sponsor, who brought you the Cryptid Creature spot, that is Working Pour Mobile bartending service. That's working pour as in like pouring a drink. Working Poor Mobile Bartending Service. They're located out of Atlanta, and they're serving businesses, events, parties, and more. So if you're in Atlanta, check them out. They're on Instagram at the Working Poor Bar, all one word, or they're online at www.theworkingpoorbar.com. And that's not poor, Poor, that's poor as in Pour. And their slogan is, "You work hard, let us pour."
I like it.
Yes, I like it too. We should take it. She needs to take that show on the road.
Yeah, yeah.
And then our other sponsor, who is going to sponsor my segment, which is going to be on channeling, that's what's up next, is brought to you by Chef Bella B LLC, located out of Aurora, Colorado. She provides personal and private chef services. You can check her out on Instagram at Chef Bella B, or on her website, chefbellakitchen.com. And she says it's going to be the ultimate dining experience. I also believes on her website you can get barbecue sauces and rubs and spices. And so if you're looking to cook it up, chef it up, you need to go ahead and check out Chef Bella B. And both of these businesses are startups, so go out and support if you can. At least check out their website, spread the word. If you don't live in their city, spread the word for these two great startup businesses who are gracious enough to be our sponsors.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So, I know that there's a lot of crazy shit out there, right? And I cannot wait until we record more and more and we can get more and more deep into crazy shit. But the thing that I wanted to talk about when I got to pick my topic, something that just really fascinates me, is channeling. And channeling is one of those things that, like the cryptid creature, it's a really broad umbrella. There's a lot of things that can go under channeling. And I think about it all the time. Is channeling real or not? Do I believe what it is? And if you don't know what channeling is when a person's body is taken over by a spirit for the purpose of communication. And it's been around for a millennia. It's been around for as long as there have been people, there have been channeling. You have stories of shaman and witch doctors and prophets, and others who claim to hear the voices of some supernatural, world, and getting knowledge. And they have, people, psychics and mediums have what they call spirit guides. And they, if you've ever had your tarot cards written, or ever gone to see a psychic, they say that they're channeling spirit guides and they're giving them information to communicate to you. And then those that channel, that say they channel for a higher consciousness, and that they channel for spiritual purposes, and they channel God or their higher selves. And then there are those that say they channel beings or entities, like Esther Hicks and Abraham, or Jane Roberts and how she channeled Seth. And so there are all these different types of channels. And so I just wanted to talk about it because when I think about it, the first thing I say to myself is, that's some crazy shit. Channeling is crazy. What do you think,
It is.
James?
It is crazy. Like you said, you become a conduit for something else. You think about that, and it's like that's crazy right there. And
So
and it's interesting that you say this because in the paranormal, there's a lot of channeling. People have said that they have channeled Bigfoot.
people say that they've channeled Bigfoot.
They have, and then you hear people talk about channeling aliens.
Now
So
I've
it
heard
just
I've never
okay.
heard Bigfoot. I've never heard people channeling Bigfoot. So that's a
There
new
is.
one on me. But I have heard about people who say they channel aliens. And so when I think about it, I have to think of like my own personal experiences, because there's a lot of information on channeling. All you gotta do is do a Google search. There's tons of websites. There's thousands of books on channeling. There are websites, there are YouTube videos that, if you want to learn how to channel, will teach you how to channel. There are those that think channeling is evil. There are those that think channeling is spiritual. But when I think about my view on channeling, I'm not really sure what I believe. I think most of me believes it, but I also believe that there are people that have faked being channels for the sake of
Yeah.
just trying to separate you from your money, right?
Yep. That's
So
true.
I think one of the most influential channels for me has been Esther Hicks, and she channels Abraham. And the information that this entity provides is is all, really good, positive, spiritual information. And then when I listen to her, if it's not true, then I often wonder, well, if it's not true, why would she say that she's channeling all this good, positive information if it was just a fraud? It contradicts itself, I guess, is what I'm saying. Um,
I have a quick
I don't,
question, Kelly.
okay.
Is the Abraham she channeling supposed to be the Abraham out of the Bible, or is it just an entity named Abraham?
It's an entity named Abraham. So it's
Gotcha.
not it's not this person. Abraham, from what I can tell you, and I don't know a lot, is an entity that is like a being from the universe,
Got it.
right? That she channels, that really tries to help humans on their path and try to help you understand how you have the power within. So that's what she channels, and she does seminars and she's written books. There's another lady that I was reading about. Her name is Janet Warren Campbell. She says she channels trees and that trees speak to her. But she also says that she channels an entity as well. And it's not like one entity, it's like a group of entities, like a group mind that she channels. And then there's Jane Roberts. And Jane Roberts, I believe, passed away in 1984. But she was famous in the 60s for channeling. Her entity was named Seth. And Seth gave all this information about the universe and all of these things. And so it's very interesting to me. And the thing that I always wonder about channeling is, how can some people do it and some can't? Or can we all do it? It's just very interesting to me. Like Abraham and Esther Hicks, I often wonder, why did this entity or this being choose her? Right? She said she had never had any experience with channeling before. She started to meditate and began to channel this entity.
So, well, in my personal opinion, I believe that everyone, I think you have to be open minded to it first, but I think everyone is capable of doing it. I don't believe everyone can do it. I believe it's a gift, and I believe not everyone has it.
Interesting. So another thing that I thought about channeling is, like I said, psychics and mediums, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of people believe in channeling because look at the Long Island mystic or the Long Island medium,
Yeah.
right? She was a channel, right? She would go to people and channel their deceased relatives, right?
Hmm.
That was a channel. I've gone to and had my tarot cards written, and the person who's reading my tarot cards has said, they're channeling their spirit guides, and I want to believe the information they're telling me is true. And in some instances, the information that I have been told in various tarot card readings has been true, but it hasn't always been 100% accurate. It's more of, do I really believe that these people are channeling spirit guides, I guess is what I'm saying. What do you think?
Well, like I said, I do believe some people have the gift. I have personally had experience where a psychic medium has told me things that no one outside my family knew. He was actually an acquaintance of a very good friend of mine, and I took my friend thinking, well, if this psychic medium, comes up with any BS, my buddy can say, hey, that's BS, because he's known me a very long time too. And some of the things he told me, Kelly, I would look at my buddy, we would just look at each other like, yeah, how did he know that? And it got to the point where this psychic medium told me the nickname of my uncle that only the family knew. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? This guy knows what he's talking about. He described my mother in such detail where my friend was like, that's your mom. And so I believe that some people have it. I've also been to other card readers and psychics and walked out of there thinking, oh, that was, time I'll never get back.
Yeah,
You know,
sometimes the readings have been too good, right?
oh, I'm going to marry some rich woman. My career is going to take off, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, yeah, I could also, find a unicorn, but,
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the psychic medium because that's the one that you took me to see. And I really
yeah,
thought that we were going for a tarot card reading. So I was really surprised when he just simply took my hand and began to channel. And I will say this, everything this man had told me sitting at that table came true. And a lot of the stuff I did not believe him when he told me this. A lot of the things he told me about my business and how I wasn't going to have this business anymore. And at the time, the business was doing great. So I'm like, no, it's not.
I remember.
You remember this? And he was like,
I
nope.
do.
He's like, it's just not meant to be, not at this time. And a lot of stuff that he said, I did not believe him. He said that he channeled my father, and a lot of the things that he said about my dad were dead on. There's no way this man could have known this,
And
right?
that scares me because I
It
was I was a kid. I was there with you.
it was mind blowing. So it
It,
just
it
really
was.
makes me think about channels and how it's some crazy shit. And I know that some people um really believe that this type of thing is evil and it's bad and it's demons. And every time that you see like movies about a spirit coming into the body, it's never good,
No,
right? It's
it
never
never
good.
is.
It's
Because
never
those
good.
movies don't sell money. They don't sell tickets, yeah.
Well,
Who
it
wants to
can't.
go see a spirit like Casper, make you all happy and shit?
Yeah, so I think that people have a natural fear because you see these movies, and when that stuff happens to you, it's never good, right? So it just makes me wonder when I see movies like that if it's really the opposite. And here goes my conspiracy theory, that they don't want us to know how really good it is, and that's why they put these movies out and always say how bad it is.
Well, I believe that there's some validity to that. I
So
really do.
So it's kind of interesting to me, especially like when I was looking about the lady who channels trees, and then how you can take that back to what the Druids, right?
Right.
And
They said the Druids could, communicate with nature, and that was, thousands of years ago.
and they say that plants can talk. Look at M. Night, his movie with Mark Wahlberg. The
Oh,
plants
well,
went to
yeah.
the happening. That's where the plants were,
They
you
were
know,
pissed.
well, they were not pleased, were they?
Yeah.
They were not pleased. But I'm not saying anybody channeled those plants. I'm just saying that these plants were able to communicate with one another to
Right.
destroy humanity. But my question to you is, James, is if have you number one, have you ever tried to channel?
I never have. That's a good question. I have tried to meditate, and I think that's the gateway to channeling. But
Okay.
so,
Are you open to channeling? Is it something that you would want to do, or does it kind of scare you? Does it not interest you?
I'll be honest, 'cause I'm open to a lot of things. I think that's why we talk about what we talk about, because we're so open to things. I would be open to channeling. I don't have any fear of it. I don't. I have been in situations. I don't know if you would call them paranormal situations, and I've never been afraid, quote unquote. So I don't think I would be afraid to channel. I think it would be cool. But I'm impatient. It's like I want to channel, and I want to be going to different planes and universes right now. I don't want to have to work up to it. I don't want to be waiting months and years. I just boom. I am like good to go channeling.
Well, from what I read, takes a little more than that, right?
See, that's yeah,
And most people, when they channel, when you mention meditate and channeling, they kind of go hand in hand because that's when, most meditation is geared around channeling your higher self,
right.
right? So you are letting the best of you come out through channeling, right? Um, I myself have never tried to channel, right? I've never like tried it. I meditate. I've never tried to channel. Don't really know if I have necessarily an interest. I think if I were to like really actively try to channel, it would just be to channel my higher self. I don't necessarily need like a entity coming to visit. I'm good. But I do find it extremely fascinating, and I hope that the listener is really thinking, and maybe you're scratching your head, and maybe you even want to talk about this stuff, but people kind of raise their eyebrow and be like, what shit are you on? And you're like, hey, that's some crazy shit,
And
you know?
that's why we talk about it, Kel, because people look at us like, "Are you kidding me? What are you on?" It's like,
It's
no, there's just so much we don't know.
yeah, and it's really quite interesting, and we could spend a whole podcast on nothing but channeling. However, we got to segue into our next topic, which would be random bullshit.
All right,
Random bullshit is going to be brought to us by yet one more startup, Bright Headed Publishing. Bright Headed Publishing is a startup publishing company trying to make their mark in the publishing world. Like I said, we're out supporting startups. They've got a couple of authors. If you want to support, go visit them. Their website is www.brightheadpublishing. You can see who their authors are, and the books are available on Amazon. So that will take us for our next topic, which is honestly going to be kind of fun. I'm excited because we're just going to call it random bullshit.
just whatever.
It's like when we sit and have our conversations, we can cover a whole variety of topics in a very short period of time, right? So in the random bullshit and talking with the channeling, that it always we jump into, as you were saying, parallel universes, multiverses. What do you think
Yeah,
about the multiverse? You think it exists? You think it's real?
well, I do because now this is once again what you consider proof. There are theories, string theory, all these different theories that, according to the math and all that, they exist. I just read a book about Skinwalker Ranch, and they were saying that maybe some of the things that were attributed to happening up there were the universes or the dimensions interacting with each other. He says, when you see a window or a portal open up and a creature come out, the portal closes and the creature walks away. Well, this scientist just witnessed this, but they were unable to get any kind of scientific data. It happened one time, it happened in a random place, and they were unable to get the data. So did that happen? Did that exist? Did we Was there a clash of universes, dimensions there? You don't think about it. He makes this the statement, you don't think about these happenings, where there's these worlds where these incredible creatures are happening and all these things are going on, unless it interacts with your life. This poor rancher and his family are having all these things happening on their ranch that you couldn't believe are happening, but yet are happening to these people. And then who am I to tell these people, oh, that didn't happen?
Yeah, but they're not the first people on the ranch to report strange ongoings at
No,
Skinwalker Ranch. They are not the
no.
first ones. I'm surprised they even bought it, right? But when you talk about that and parallel universes, and so let's say that Skinwalker is a portal That's why they always have weird stuff going on, right? But
Right.
then let's take it back to like the 70s and remember when all the big talk was the Bermuda Triangle,
Right.
right? And people going into this triangle and disappearing, right? And never coming back. You've got accounts of army planes and boats and people who have just simply disappeared,
Right.
flying, and they say that's going into another dimension. That's a
Exactly.
riff. That's a riff in the dimension. But then you have others that would say it's not a rip in the dimension, it's a rip. It's a what do they call it? It's a it's a kink in the matrix, a glitch in
A
the
glitch.
matrix. And because we're in a matrix. We're not in a universe. We're in a matrix. And so which makes me wonder, James, and maybe you know because I don't, what's the difference between a universe and a dimension and a matrix?
Okay, well, as far as I know, and I'm not an expert, the universe.
Disclaimer,
Yeah,
disclaimer.
disclaimer. Uh, the dimensions are what we think of as like three-dimensional: height, width, depth. Okay, time is considered a dimension. All right, so there's all these different dimensions like that. Now you could say each one of those dimensions is a universe
Okay.
unto itself. And then you start talking about the multiverse, okay? And in my opinion, a multiverse is instead of being a different dimension where they're on different planes or different frequencies, my idea of a multi-dimension is they're all maybe on the same plane but a different frequency. So in this universe, we're doing this podcast where maybe in another universe we've blown up and we're doing world tours now.
Oh, I like that universe.
Yeah, me too. But so that's kind of my thing about it. But then you also have these dimensions where weird shit's coming out. You got scientists saying drones are coming out and aliens are coming out. And so maybe are these wormholes? I mean, it's some crazy shit.
But then what is the matrix?
Okay, now in my understanding, Elon Musk, I think, believes this, where the matrix, we are actually in a computer simulation being run by another higher dimension race.
There you go.
So
So,
someone's playing us like PlayStation 87.
right, and we're just characters.
Right.
And maybe this is the part where these characters, who are now our avatars, are putting together a podcast.
Yeah, we may be in a big game where, the more listeners we get, the more diamonds we get, we can buy more features. I mean, who knows? It's crazy.
Interesting. That is some crazy shit. Because the movie The Matrix was, the first time that I saw it, I really didn't get it. I think everybody watched it because the special effects were new, right?
Right.
The storyline was like secondary because it went way over my head, right? And now that they're coming out with a fourth, and this is why it's called random bullshit because we've gone from multiverse to dimensions to the Matrix to now Keanu Reeves. The
Right.
reason why I say is because the Matrix 4 is coming out, and I have to go watch the other three so I can understand number 4. I don't have to do that with John Wick, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, John Wick's a bad man. I like John Wick too. He's a bad man.
I'm just saying that's why it's random because we could go anywhere with this shit. And
Yeah.
that is some crazy shit. So and just on since we're talking about Keanu because I love him so they've got the Bill and Ted movie out and
I
they
knew
look
we were going to say that.
I don't know if I want to see it because I kind of like to remember them as they were. And it's hard to picture John Wick being
As I know, huh? As excellent.
it's hard for me now, right? It's hard for me. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll watch it, but I did see the trailer.
Well, maybe you know John Wick just needs to chill, and then that's his chill side. Once he
Maybe.
gets done kicking everyone's ass, he can say, "Fuck, man, I'm just going to relax and be like Bill and Ted now."
Maybe. Well, this is the end of our time, James. It's as always, it is always a pleasure to hash out crazy shit with you. If you, the listener, has feedback for us, you have crazy shit that you want to talk about, maybe you want to comment, you have some information on what we talked about, we are more than happy. We just ask that you keep it positive because this is a positive zone. You could reach us at email at thatsomecrazyshit@gmail.com. That's all one word. That's some crazy shit. I don't know what we're going to talk about next time. I know that we'll do another cryptid creature. I'll
Yep.
have some crazy shit to talk about. James will have some crazy shit to talk about, and maybe we'll even have some ideas that our listeners have given us to talk about.
That would be cool. And then, of course, our crazy random shit.
Absolutely. Once again, we want to thank our sponsors, Chef Bella B, Poor. I can't think of the name of her company, which I'm going to have to edit it out, but I can fix it.
Where's your notes, Miss
They're
Kate?
right here. Okay. We want to thank our sponsors again. Working Poor Mobile Bartending Service located out of Atlanta, Chef Bella B located out of Colorado, and Brightheaded Publishing. All right. Until next time, thank you. It's been some crazy shit.
Hasta.